Hello everybody, my name is Zachary Wheeler, and today I would like to take a moment to discuss the growing prominence of video games in modern culture and their place in the arts. In this video, I will be arguing that video games can be perceived as a new genre of literature by looking at how unique conventions of the medium were used, the prominence of setting, and exactly how the story is relayed to the audience. To do this, I will look at 2017's Bioshock, a title that is still regarded today as one of the greatest games to ever be released. And so, would you kindly lend me your attention as we discuss this invaluable piece of art? As the title screen fades away and Bioshock begins, the player is immediately thrust into the role of Jack. And even though Jack is our game's protagonist, we never do see his face or even hear the man's voice. And in video games, this is a common convention used for presenting the main character, and it's referred to as a first-person experience. This choice is meant to immerse the player fully in the game's world, as the protagonist becomes a projection of themselves. It's meant to give the player the illusion of freedom when interacting with the narrative and establish a personal connection with the environment. The game's opening sequence now begins. We find ourselves amongst the fire and wreckage of a horrific plane crash somewhere in the middle of the ocean. You appear to be the only survivor of this incident, and the only thing that you can see besides the flames and wreckage is a lighthouse off in the distance. With little time to consider how strange it is for a lighthouse to be out in the middle of the ocean like this, the player begins to swim that way, seeking refuge. This opening scene immediately establishes the grim overtone of Bioshock's world. The player is alone and isolated in a desperate situation. They are given no instructions or frame of reference, and they must rely only on their instincts to survive. Bioshock's story is driven by establishing this sense of isolation and confusion that then forces the player to push forward in search of comfort and understanding. When the player finally reaches the dim lighthouse, the lights automatically come on, and we are greeted with a banner reading, "No gods, no kings, only man." This particular line of text being the first actual words we encounter is significant, as it sets the tone and values of the world we are about to enter. Bioshock creates a social commentary prevalent in the world today, demonstrating a society where individualism and isolationism is exemplified, and in turn the game provides a complex commentary on how much freedom an individual actually possesses. As we enter a submarine located in the basement of the lighthouse, the vessel begins its descent to the ocean depths, and the anticipation builds for what might be coming next. Then, a screen cuts on, and a video plays that introduces Andrew Ryan, Bioshock's most important character, and for just a moment, I'm going to let him do the speaking.
I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose rapture. A city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. And with the sweat of your brow, rapture can become your city as well.
At this point, we see the city of Rapture for the first time. Built at the bottom of the ocean, Rapture was meant to be a utopia where the creator would not be constrained by the limitations of government and religion. Andrew Ryan's vision of man's potential when free to focus on themselves. But by the time we arrive in the city, that dream is turned into a nightmare, and the city has fallen into chaos. We quickly learn that because of unchecked genetic modifications and experimental drugs, most of Rapture's citizens have been driven insane, and certain individuals have taken advantage of this chaos by trying to assume a position of power in the city of Rapture, further killing Ryan's dream in the process. At this point, the game begins in earnest as we take our first steps into the dystopia Rapture has become, and the plot continues to unfold before us. The city is now open for us to explore and experience as we attempt to survive the deteriorating landscape. while also discovering how the city met its ruin to begin with. But now that we understand the basic story of Bioshock and the prominent themes and issues the story seeks to explore, and I have hopefully established key elements that can classify it as a potential piece of literature, we need to discuss why the story of Bioshock cannot be told in any other medium. First is the notion of the setting. Rapture is a city that has fallen into ruin and is crumbling before our eyes in real time. Rooms flood and hallways cave in from the ocean pressure, and around every corner is a body that tells its own story. Rapture is alive, or more specifically, Rapture is dying. And if this was presented in a more traditional written fashion of literature, we would be denied the experience of seeing the city fall before us, and the effect that has on our experience. Next, we need to acknowledge that Bioshock is dependent on player choices in order to move the plot forward. Yes, there are key points in the story that are being built towards, and the main plot does have an ordered format, but if we only consider the main story, we begin to ignore all the other components that make Bioshock so unique and different. Rapture has a history to explore, and many secrets to discover, and allowing the player the choice of looking for these contributes to each person's unique experience with the game. If you eliminate the illusion of choice in Bioshock, the story loses all relevance. In fact, how Bioshock approaches the idea of choice is something that has made the game stand the test of time. What I'm about to talk about is a massive spoiler, so if you intend to ever experience this game for yourself, turn this off now. Okay, when we come face to face with Andrew Ryan at the story's climax, we are given some information that changes how we perceive the rest of the game. So one more time, I'm going to let Andrew Ryan do the talking for a moment.
And now he's come to murder me. In the end, what separates a man from a slave? Money? Power? No. A man chooses. A slave obeys. You think you have memories. A farm. A family. An airplane. A crash. And then this place. Was there really a family? Did that airplane crash? Or was it hijacked? Forced down. Forced down by something less than a man. Something bred to sleepwalk through life until they are activated by a simple phrase spoken by their kindly master. Was a man sent to kill? Or a slave? A man chooses. A slave obeys. Come in. Stop. Would you kindly? Would you kindly? Powerful phrase. Familiar phrase.
Would you kindly? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find it? Would you kindly find it? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch?
Sit. Would you kindly? Stand. Would you kindly? Run. Stop. Turn. A man chooses. A slave obeys. Kill! A man chooses! A slave obeys! Obey!
We discover that in a narrative all about the importance of choice, We never really had any, and it was all a trick. Now we are left to wonder if we ever really had any free will to begin with, and if any of the choices we made along the way were our own. It's about more than making choices, though. Bioshock is about, do we really have this freedom that we are led to believe? In the end, Bioshock is a complex masterpiece, and if we deny video games a place in literature, we dismiss this powerful piece of art just because of our own limitations, and not because of its own merit.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere